Hello, ladies and gentlemen, gabestah here. This is the Silver Healer Guide for the Proving Grounds, introduced in 5.4. So, once again, just like the Bronze, you will start off with a party of NPCs, including one pet, and it's your job to keep them alive. They'll do most of the damage, if not all of it, so you really just need to focus on healing here. And with Silver, you get introduced to a few more mechanics and difficulties over the Bronze, but it's still not all that difficult. So wave 1 you can see is just one large ripper, and the size description for the enemies that you'll face, small and large, sort of dictate the amount of health as well as the damage output that they'll do. So generally one large will do more damage than two small enemies of that type. So if you see a couple larges on your tank, then you need to really focus on keeping him topped off because his damage could spike quite quickly. The Hivesinger is the type of mob that will do an AE sort of shout that hits everyone in the group. So you can use your efficient AE heals or heal over times, whatever you have depending on your class. And don't really need to worry about interrupting, although you can do so. The Flamecallers are introduced in the Silver here, and these guys you should interrupt their invoke ability because this one, as you can see, shoots little pools of lava around the room, and standing in these increases a stacking debuff that it is damage over time, and it does a lot of damage. So typically just the random chance means that it won't land underneath anybody, but you don't want to risk that. So at the start of the third wave, try to be ready to stun or interrupt that cast because they always start with that invoke. And here's another Flamecaller, this time a large one. So I'm going to rush forward. You can see the rogue actually got the kickoff there, so he did the job for us. But the large flame callers use Pyroblast instead of Fireball, which does a lot of damage, and they randomly target if the tank doesn't have threat. So you can kind of keep it targeted and watch its target of target frame to see who is going to receive a particular cast. But if two of the NPCs or yourself get two back-to-back Pyroblasts without healing, that may be very dangerous. So you want to make certain to keep everyone topped off at least above 50% health, especially the tank, anytime there's a large Flamecaller in the wave. So wave number 5, we've got a large ripper and a Hivesinger. Very simple stuff. The small Hivesinger will again use that group AE, but it does very little damage. And here's a Flamecaller that just spawned. So I'm going to interrupt his initial cast. And if he melees you, it's not that much damage at all. You can see he hit me for 24,000. So getting threat on the Flamecaller is not a big deal at all. And the tank NPC is pretty good. He will pick up threat pretty quickly. So I'm focusing most of my healing on the tank, trying to make sure that he's topped off most of the time, and then use more efficient slow heals on the group unless there's an emergency situation. And then try to make use of the downtime between waves as much as possible. So wave 6 is the first time you're introduced to the Aqualight. And these guys will basically cast a dot, or actually it's a debuff that lasts 6 seconds. It's not actually a dot. But after the expiration, if it's not removed, it will cause an explosion, which deals heavy damage to the targeted individual as well as anyone within a few yards. So there you can see I let it expire to see what it did, and it hit everyone except the rogue who was out of range of it. So it's about 10-yard explosion or so for around 120, 130,000. So do your best to dispel that whenever possible, and if you get multiple casts of the debuff at the same time, and therefore your one dispel cooldown is not enough, you'll have to prioritize. Ideally you want to dispel off the melee, especially if you are within melee as well. So it hits fewer targets than the ranged who are likely to be spread out. Anyway, so here we've got a large Aqualight, and their debuff does more damage if it explodes than the small version, which is the same for all of the mob types. So again, just prioritize dispelling that or keeping far away. So here you can see I let myself explode to see the damage. And the dot damage also is applied on this one. So I dispel it pretty early, basically. And that's really all there is to it. And then that wave died really fast. I don't know if they just did a lot of extra damage or it's kind of a weaker wave on purpose, but you get a lot of regen time. So take advantage of that for the final wave of silver, which is number 8. Here we go. So you can see start off pretty simple with the Hivesinger and the Aqualight. And you can interrupt the Hivesinger if you really care to, but it's not a big deal. So I just focus most of my healing on the warrior tank. And our mage uses time warp, which is pretty awesome, I think. So here you can see the second part of the wave is a large Flamecaller with a couple rippers. So you want to interrupt that Flamecaller, stun it as much as you can. That's the thing that'll do the most damage to you in this. Its random pyroblasts can be quite dangerous, especially if you still have the Aqualight active and it's using its explosion debuff. So again, watch the target of target and try to top off any players, or not players, NPCs that get targeted by the pyroblasts, especially if they're low health. Otherwise, use your interrupt and your stun whenever you can, and then the rippers can obviously be taken care of after the cleanup. And that's it. So that is the silver difficulty challenge for the Proving Grounds healer mode. As always, good luck, and thanks for watching.